Nigel, it has been an absolutely incredible day again here at Buckingham Palace, packed with solemn ceremony, of course, this morning, starting with that accession ceremony where King Charles was proclaimed as monarch, and then, of course, the heralds proclaiming that to those outside St James's Palace and then up to Royal Exchange as well. It was incredible because, of course, it was the first time that the public have ever been able to see an accession ceremony. And, of course, 70 years, 7 decades since the last accession ceremony was held. And throughout the day here, there have been tens of thousands of people crowding into the area around Buckingham Palace. The police have now actually closed off the roadway to people, the main mall down to Buckingham Palace, and at the front of the palace itself that has been cleared mostly of the many floral tributes that have been left there. Instead, people are lining the pavements right down the mall and right into the area around the monument here in the front of Buckingham Palace, and others were being funnelled down the pavements and into Green Park, because that is an area much larger and much more suitable actually for laying these floral tributes. And there is already a great carpet of flowers that are being laid in respect. Many thousands of people going in there to Green Park to pay their respects, to talk to each other, to share their thoughts about what Her Majesty the Queen meant to them. And we got details through today, Nigel, very important details about what lies ahead in the next 9 days or so as we head up to that state funeral for Queen Elizabeth II. Now, we're told that tomorrow at 10 a.m. the coffin carrying the body of Queen Elizabeth II will be taken from Balmoral Castle. It will be carried by a party of her own gamekeepers from the Balmoral estate. That will be an incredibly poignant moment, because we know that Her Majesty the Queen absolutely loved Balmoral. She treasured her time up in that Scottish castle where she could truly be a private citizen, a country woman, as she loved to be, driving around that vast Balmoral estate. Well, her body will be driven from Balmoral for the last time, that coffin taken in a hearse on the 175-mile journey down to the Scottish capital. It'll arrive in Edinburgh at Holyrood House, at that official residence for the monarch in Scotland, at about 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And there the body of Her Majesty the Queen will rest in the throne chamber overnight, and then on Monday it will be taken to St Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh, where again it will lie and rest there in St Giles Cathedral for, we're told, 24 hours. And during that time the public will be allowed to go in and to pay their respects and to view the coffin of Her Majesty the Queen. I should say, on the journey from the Palace of Holyrood House down to St Giles Cathedral, there will also be members of the royal family. We understand that King Charles and Queen Consort Camilla will be travelling up to Edinburgh to join other senior members of the royal family, and they, some at least, will process behind that coffin as it makes its way to St Giles Cathedral. Then, of course, on Tuesday afternoon, we're expecting that coffin to be taken from St Giles to Edinburgh Airport, flown down to RAF Northolt in North London, where the coffin will be then again placed on a hearse and driven through West London into central London and here to Buckingham Palace, where the coffin will stay overnight at the palace before then Wednesday, which will be a pivotal day, Nigel, because of course we all look forward to the state funeral on the Monday, but on the Wednesday afternoon, Her Majesty's coffin will be placed on a gun carriage. It will be accompanied by a large military procession, and by members of the royal family. Senior royals and other members of the royal family, some walking behind the coffin on that gun carriage as it makes its way out the gates of Buckingham Palace, then up the Mall, a right-hand turn onto Horse Guards, through Horse Guards Arch, onto Whitehall and down to Parliament Square, and of course then into the Palace of Westminster. From there, the Queen's body will be laid to, or will be at rest within Westminster Hall for 4 days in which the public will be allowed to visit that site, to pay their respects at the coffin of Her Majesty the Queen, and then of course on that Monday morning the coffin, again we're told, will be placed upon a gun carriage and taken for the short journey from Westminster Hall across to Westminster Abbey for the state funeral. After the state funeral itself, the coffin will be driven to Windsor Castle, to St George's Chapel in Windsor Castle, where there will be another private ceremony there before Her Majesty is interred in the chapel, in the crypt in St George's Chapel. So it promises to be, of course, for 9 days. More days that, like today, are just packed with very poignant ceremony. There will be many opportunities throughout those 9 days, Nigel, for members of the public who want to come down to London, to go to Edinburgh perhaps, to see the events going on here, and for some to be able to get a glimpse of Her Majesty's coffin as it's taken first to Westminster Hall, then of course to Westminster Abbey and back to Windsor Castle. It is incredible, the scenes that we're witnessing here. Still some 3 days on after the death of Her Majesty the Queen, thousands of people, and those crowds will only grow as we move towards that state funeral.
Mark White.